My name is Jo Dacombe and I am the Arts Events Coordinator for St Andrews. I've only worked here 10 months now, I think, so just under a year. So I'm still getting the feel of some of it. So I guess in a way my service feels quite new. I'm doing quite a lot of projects and events and setting things up here, which obviously weren't here before because I wasn't here to do it. So it feels like there's a nice momentum building now and it's getting quite busy and I'm quite excited about what's going on. So I'm quite enjoying it. What do I think about the most? Probably, I think most about my identity in a way as an artist. I see myself as an artist, but I do lots of other things which are art related, but aren't necessarily seen as being an artist. So I sometimes wonder how my life is going in terms of what I really want it to be and how that affects the way I think of myself. So I think about that quite a lot. Am I still an artist, I suppose, is the question sometimes. When I'm making art and it's going really well, that's not a problem and I'm really happy. But when I'm having to do other things, or I don't have time for that or anything, and then I start thinking, am I still an artist, or am I something else, or will I come back to that? Or so I think about that nearly all the time. And whenever I've got space to think, I'm thinking, what am I now? Where am I going? I think about that because I don't, even when I'm doing something that isn't making art per se, I think the fact that I see myself as an artist, my approach is that way. In a way, I think quite creatively, and I like to take risks and try new things, and I'm always trying to achieve something that hasn't been done before, or something like that. And I think all that is part of who I am as an artistic person. So, I mean, even strange things like when I used to work as a cleaner, I'd still try and make that the most beautiful way of cleaning something I possibly could. It's sort of really almost slightly obsessive to work that way. So yeah, everything I do is bound up with who I am and the way I do things and the way I think about what I'm doing. I'm quite theoretical. I often think about the theory of the way we talk, move, eat, work, drive. I'm always thinking about what's the wider picture of this thing I'm doing. If I'm just driving somewhere, I'm thinking about the environment constantly. What am I doing here to the environment with this driving? Is there a way I could do less of this? Just things like that all the time. Yeah. What I have to do is come up with exciting ideas and events and try and come up with things that maybe haven't happened before, or to reinvent something that's happened before. So you have to quite think creatively that way. But there's quite a lot of what I call operational things. So when you're actually setting something up, certain things you have to do, and they're kind of mundane, but you kind of keep hold of the vision of what you're trying to achieve, and that's the creative bit. And often there's lots. I mean, if you work somewhere like St Andrews, there are so many restrictions to things that you can do that often you have to think creatively. Well, how can I still make this great without breaking any rules? It's kind of, so you have to think around those problems a lot. And I quite enjoy doing that, and just trying to achieve something that hasn't really been tried before. I get a lot of really good feedback. They really love most of the patients who come to the things that I put on. They really enjoy it, and it means quite a lot to them personally. The difficulty is often the logistics of it, of just getting people to your event can be really quite hard, and if they're not able to for some reason, some of the restrictions that we have, it can be quite frustrating for them. And that's one of my main worries is am I frustrating anybody by putting this on and they just simply can't come to it, and it feels really unfair, and I've kind of set up that situation. But so that's something I struggle with. But on the whole, I think I don't get everything exactly right, but most of our events and projects are really well received. And I've just been doing a survey, and we've got getting a lot of feedback about, we want more of this, we like these sorts of things, and they have their own ideas of what I could put on as well, which is really good. So yeah, it all feels quite positive, and I feel like the part that I play in the life of someone who's got a mental health, who's a mental health patient, the part I play is kind of um, reconnecting them with their identity in a way, or who they are as a creative person themselves, and getting away from what it is to be a mental health patient and just being a human, and what that means to be a human, which I think art is very much about that. The arts generally, it's about who we are as humans and who you are as an individual, and celebrating that, and the diversity of us all, that we're all different but we're all the same in other ways as well. And all those sorts of things come out in the art, and the projects and the events and the way that patients experience them. And I think that's really important for somebody who's a patient, is to just kind of reconnect with that. This is who I am, and this is how I can be me by doing something artistic or being involved. Or, I think that's actually really important for everybody, not just for patients, but maybe particularly for patients. But it's been a long journey, and it's interesting when you work in the arts because you don't necessarily have a career path that you're following. You kind of meander around a bit, and I've done a lot of this and a lot of that, and changed course and changed my mind, and done some things for a while, and then thought this is not challenging me anymore, so I need to change and do something else. And part of the reason I'm here actually is it was another change of course that I felt I needed to do. I was doing some work with a gallery, and I felt like it was almost like I was getting too good at that. This is too easy now. I've been doing this for a while, and I just need a new challenge. So yeah, there's I don't have any kind of vision of what my career should be or anything like that. I just kind of pursue things as they feel right at the time, and that's I've ended up here. I think there are artists who are very almost linear. They do this one thing and they just hone it and get better and better at that one thing all their career, and kind of get known for that. And sometimes I think, maybe that's the way to do it, because they actually get really successful at that one thing. But over the years, I've realised that's not me. I'm interested in everything. I want to deal with everything, so I can't just do one thing. So I need to do art projects of my own art projects, my own practice, but also do these other things that work with people. Either working in the community or working with people in hospital or wherever it is. I've worked in prisons, and I've worked in community settings, and worked with disadvantaged people, and worked in other countries with people who don't speak my language. I'm really interested in those things as well as my own actual practice and making. So I wouldn't want to lose any of that. All of that is part of who I am and what I do, but it does mean that it's a little bit kind of disparate and hard to pin down. Yeah, often it's, because I think of myself as a visual artist, and often it's through the visual that you connect with somebody, because that's a shared language in a way, when you don't have a spoken language. So, and also, not just visual art, but visual things like body language, and just having a big smile really helps. And just things that we all understand. We understand body language and connecting to people that way. And again, that experience, I'm sure I've taken it into other settings. So, like, for example, working here, often verbal contact isn't actually going to work with some of the people here, but they can read your body language, or if you're giving out a good vibe or whatever it is, or you have a relaxing style, that's going to help somebody connect with you, even if they're, in a place where they can't really understand your words. It's all these things you learn through life, you kind of bring into different situations, and they're all helpful. If people are being negative about what I'm trying to do, I tend to actually, I'm even more motivated to change their minds. I'm kind of inspired by that, to prove them wrong, or to prove my own way of seeing. Because I think I'm quite an optimistic person, and I'm always, if people are kind of trying to shut something down, then that's just a challenge for me to, break through that. Yeah, but what if we do it like this? So yeah, I deal with it just by not accepting the word no, really. I think the way I work as an artist has changed a lot, and I really can't separate. I talk about my art practice and my work separately, but actually in my mind they're not separate at all, really. They're all part of me, and they do influence each other. And my artwork has changed as my working life has changed, and sometimes they are the same thing. So sometimes I am being an artist and being paid to be so, and other times I'm doing an art-related job, but slightly different. So that kind of has woven in and out of itself throughout my life, really. And yeah, my art changes all the time, but it is interesting. I mean, I started out as a straight painter, but over the years I've done many different things which involve storytelling and walking and filmmaking and sculpting and light and all sorts of things, installations, lots of different media. But even though they're all different, I can kind of look back to when I was maybe 8 years old. There's a common thread that I'm still actually there. There's something around landscape and place and people's relationship to place that is still there in everything that I do. That always seems to come out in some way, no matter what I'm doing. So yeah, it's really different, but it's also, there's still that one interest that's always there. You can kind of trace the thread all the way back. I mean, my father's an architect, and there's something about the way you design spaces for people to live in that relates to this idea as well. So does it come from, when I was very young, because my father only lived with us till I was 11, but before that, I think he was quite influential on me. We used to have a lot of conversations. We lived in London. He used to take me to a lot of art galleries in London at that time, and I think a lot of that has cultivated this questioning way of seeing the world and things in me. And because he's an architect, he's interested in spaces, and he would have talked to me about those things, and it would have all gone in. And somehow that's come out in who I am now. It probably comes from there, but not in any specific way. And he really wanted me to be an engineer, but I'm not. I used to do quite a lot, because I have an interest in people and place. It led me into doing public art. It kind of seemed obvious, but actually having done some of that public art and this idea of the monument, I actually realised that that's not something I want to do. I don't actually want to leave these things behind, particularly. So I moved away from that, and my work with place is much more about something happening. And a lot of my work is something that happens temporarily and then disappears, and I think that's really important. And actually, I tend to throw away a lot of my stuff, and that's part of the process. It's there for a while, and it changes the way you think about where it is, but then it goes, but you've still made a change, even though it's not there anymore. In your imagination, the place has changed because something happened there. That's much more interesting to me than the actual objects themselves. They just go or get recycled or become something else. So I don't want any kind of legacy. It's more that I just pursue things because I'm fascinated by them, and I kind of can't help myself. And that's why I do it. There's no reason for. No, I've thrown away a lot of work. It's quite liberating, because then you've got room to make more. So it's more of a continuous journey. I don't really think about what's gone before, what I've done before. It's more about where I'm going now. That's where I am. I'm always thinking to the future and the present and the